All right, everybody. So, as a part of National Poetry Month, we've already touched on many different kinds of poems, but today we're going to delve a little bit more deeply into sonnets, what they are, what they're made of, all that fun stuff. Now, when you hear the word sonnet, most of us automatically think of Shakespeare, but there's actually a couple different variations or types of sonnets. But first, let's go ahead and define what a sonnet actually is. Okay, simply put, a sonnet is a form of lyric poetry composed or made up of 14 lines of an iambic pentameter. That's kind of a wordy way to say that, so let's break that down a little bit. Iambic pentameter is a line of poetry that has 5 iambs. Okay, so if you look at my mouse here, this line of poetry, this first line here, has 5 iambs. An iamb is a foot, okay, or a pair of syllables that contains an unstressed and a stressed syllable. Penta means 5, so that's how we get 5 iambs. And meter is just a pattern of stressed or unstressed syllables. So iambic pentameter. If you look here, this U-shaped figure right here represents the unstressed syllable, while the slash represents the stressed syllable. So we have 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4, and 5. So this line is actually 10 syllables in total. Okay, all of Shakespearean sonnets will have this kind of meter to them. And here I have included a link so you can hear this being read out loud and you can kind of hear the stressed and unstressed syllables. We're not going to do that right now. That will probably take a couple minutes out of our presentation, so please make sure that you check that out on your own time, okay? Rhyme scheme, we have touched on that too a little bit, but it also plays a huge part in the writing of a sonnet. So, simply put, rhyme scheme is referred to in this letter format when we talk about it. So for example, if we see there's a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, this is what that means. And we're talking about end rhyme here, okay? Red and head, okay? They have the same end sound, so they are both going to be represented by the same letter. Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm out of my head with thinking of you, okay? All right, now as I said before, there are a few different types of sonnets. The Petrarchan or Italian sonnet is made up of 14 lines. You can find examples of this on page 246 of your textbook. But how it's formatted is a little bit differently. It has 1 octave, which is 8 lines of poetry with this rhyme scheme that we just talked about. A, B, B, A, B, B, A. It also includes 1 sestet, or 6 lines, with the rhyme scheme that looks a little bit like this, or a combination of these two. The Shakespearean sonnet, which is probably the most common one that you'll see, or the one that you're most familiar with, is formatted a little bit differently. It has 3 quatrains, which is 4 lines, and then ends in a couplet with 2 lines. And they also have this little rhyme scheme. So we do have the A, B, as in the roses are red, violets are blue, and we follow that through the 3 quatrains, and then we end with this rhyming couplet. But how do you know what to write where when you're writing a sonnet? Well, here we go. We have some examples. In a Shakespearean sonnet, in our first quatrain, we pretty much put the exposition of the theme or a metaphor, or whatever the main idea is that we're talking about. In the second, we're going to extend that or make it a little bit more complicated. We're just going to kind of build on top of what we did in the first. And in the third, this is where we introduce our conflict or our twist. And then the couplet kind of summarizes it and leaves the reader with a thought or an image or maybe a rhetorical question. And a Petrarchian structure is a lot simpler. In the octave, remember, which was 8 lines, that's where we describe our problem, which is followed by the sestet, which is the 6 lines, and that just simply gives the resolution. Okay, so here's a little bit breakdown of the formatting and what that will look like with all of these components in place. This based on what you can see here, the 1, 2, 3 quatrains, and then the ending couplet is a Shakespearean sonnet. We have the Shakespearean rhyme scheme going on here, A, B, C, D, C, D, and so on and so forth. It does have iambic pentameter, and they were nice enough to go ahead and show us our stressed and our unstressed syllables here, and go ahead and box up our end rhyme just to make this a little bit more visually easy to look at, okay? Excuse me. Okay, so let's put you to the test. Let's see how much you can recall. Take a look at these. Take a minute. Look through these and tell me if you can decide if this is a Shakespearean or a Petrarchan sonnet. Which one do you think belongs to what? Okay, if you decided that the left is a Shakespearean sonnet and the right was a Petrarchan, you are correct. It all basically boils down to the end rhyme scheme and the layout of the lines. They all have 14 lines, but they're laid out differently with the quatrains or the octaves. Okay, so I've included in this an awesome tutorial, and it walks you through every single simplistic step you need to write your own sonnet. If you click our lovely little Shakespeare caricature here, it'll take you to that. Also, again, I'm not going to go into that with you right now as it is a 10-minute video, but I suggest that you view it on your own time. It will help you immeasurably when you are writing your own. And last but not least, your favorite portion of the day, your assignment. You are going to be writing your own sonnet. Shocking, I know. Your sonnet is going to include the elements of the Shakespearean form. So, that said, you need to include 3 quatrains, 1 ending couplet, okay? Implement the rhyme scheme, and make sure that you pay attention to iambic pentameter. You have to kind of do these things all at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back and rewrite. So we will go into more details about the timeline of this writing assignment in class. For now, just go ahead and view these links that I have put in here and try to come up with some writing ideas, maybe themes or topics that you would like to explore in your sonnet. And come prepared with any questions that you might have about any of this. Thanks. Until next time. Bye-bye.